Well, thank you. Um, Thank you. What I gave is an estimate of the time. There are a lot of intervening variables that will shape how long it will take for the PIB to be passed and all of that. So nobody can say with certainty that this is when the PIB will be passed by the House or the Senate or the National Assembly. Nobody can say with certainty, not even the presiding officers. Just like I said, there are a lot of intervening variables. So that's where we are.
So, if there is nobody that can say, is there a projection that is deemed to be a bit more realistic? Maybe second quarter of next year, hopefully before the end of 2013, because that projection will help us in having a realistic view of where we are. Because we're talking about $30 billion in terms of potential investment in the gas sector that will be implemented when we bring the PIB into place. But if we don't know when this is going to happen, then that amount of money in terms of investment will be held somewhere internationally and it will not come into Nigeria.
Well, the indicators I have is that the leadership of the House is committed to the early passage of the PIB. Members of the National Assembly are committed to the early passage of the PIB. The reason is simple. We understand the importance of the PIB, the impact, the import to our economy. And if you ask me to give you an estimate of time, all things put together, by second quarter of next year, we will have a PIB in place.
Okay, that sounds quite promising. That sounds so. Hopefully, before June or by summer of next year is what we're looking at then. So, if that being the case, now when you look at what has been mentioned here in the studio in terms of integrity of Nigerians are doing business and committing to whatever we have said, and looking at what has happened in the oil sector to date, especially with the Ministry of Petroleum and Department of Petroleum Resources and the NNPC, when you look at all of that, what are the chances that the in-house cleansing that is required before the PIB comes into actualization, what do you think we need to do from here on? Because you've got so many committees that's being set up and they've not delivered much, and you've got white paper that some of us want to remain positive that it will be implemented once it gets into white paper. What are the thoughts of the members of the House?
Well, the several committees set up either by the Minister of Petroleum Resources or Ministry of Petroleum Resources, or the President has nothing or have nothing to do with the House. We are very focused on our job. We're very focused on serving the interests of Nigerians. Those committees might aid the work of the House, but it's not fundamental to the work of the House. Mind you, we've undertaken a couple of investigations with respect to the oil sector, and that may have shaped our opinion, and not necessarily those extraneous factors like the committee set up by the Ministry of Petroleum Resources or the Presidency. And so, on the whole, I don't think that those committees will hold us down or will stop the early passage of the PIB. I am single-minded. I am clear. The fact that the House is truly committed to the early passage of the PIB. We truly appreciate the importance of PIB to the economy of the country. We appreciate the fact that oil remains the monoproduct, the single product that impacts on our economy. That remains the bulk of our revenue still gotten from oil. We are not pretentious about that. We don't intend to deceive ourselves about that. And that each time you hold down investment in the oil and gas industry, the ripple effect is felt all over, in terms of employment, in terms of resources for development, and all of that. All of them, they have linkages that are tied together. And so we are single-minded about passing the PIB. I can tell you that.
Let me take you up on what you said earlier. You said that the committees set up by government, you're not concerning yourself with it, but it was credited. And please say this is right or wrong. It was credited to the House of Rep recently that the House of Rep is saying the federal government should implement the Ribadu report. How true is that? And if that is true, that means that you do have some interest in what committees are being set up by the government.
First, we are Nigerians. And as Nigerians, we live in this society. And on a daily basis, we interact with society. And society interacts with us. We are part of the society. And I didn't say we are ignorant of the fact that federal government set up a committee. I am only saying that the committee will not shape what we do in the National Assembly. That's one. Two, it's also not right that the House of Reps at any point in time insisted that federal government should implement the Ribadu report. The Ribadu report is not before us. How do we know the content? And so, as far as I'm concerned, that's street talk. It's nothing to be taken seriously. If the Ribadu report is properly before the House, then we'll look at it and weigh the pros and the cons. And if we ever make a resolution saying government should implement the Ribadu report, that's a different thing. As I speak to you, I am not aware of the fact that the Ribadu report is before the House. It's clearly not before the House. And of course, there's no way we would have directed federal government or would have made a resolution that they should implement the Ribadu report on a report that we have not seen or that is not before the House. We certainly will not do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, let's come back to the studio, Mr. Oreniga. Now, when we look at the state of the infrastructure that we have in Nigeria regarding our oil sector and the way it is managed, how do you see a movement that would enable us improve on distribution, improve on importing, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, the infrastructures right now, well, we can call them infrastructures, but in the real sense of it, I don't think we really have concrete infrastructures on ground today when it comes to the downstream in particular. The upstream is doing fairly well because it's being managed as joint ventures, as PSCs and all that. And we know that most of them are foreigners. They come in here with their money and
they bring expertise as well.
They bring expertise, they bring technology, and they want to make money. They are investors. So they are more focused. But when it comes to the downstream, it's 100% Nigerian. The refineries are managed by us. The pipelines are managed by us. So right from the terminal down to the refineries, the infrastructure is managed by Nigerians. Of course, there are issues on the pipelines. We all know about the crude oil theft issues and all that. That is a major security challenge that Nigeria has. How we will get out of that, it's something that needs serious discussion, because that is the major, the attack on the crude oil pipelines. If you don't resolve that issue, even if your refineries are working, if you bring in investors tomorrow, they invest in the refineries and they build them, and the crude oil cannot get to the refineries, what happens? So right now, there is a major issue on the pipeline infrastructures. And I think we need to address it very urgently, because that is one issue any investor in the downstream will want to clarify before I can bring 1 cent into Nigeria. If you build a refinery, I cannot get, because the only product, the only raw material for the refinery is the crude oil.
Okay. And I was going to ask Mr. Bala, just as we begin to wrap up, where do you see the investment coming from to help us with infrastructure development, our refineries? Because people have been given licenses and we don't see anything happening from their end. Shouldn't their licenses be revoked and handed over to some other people?
Well, if you look at some of the reports that the international watchers, let's just say, generally, the Professor Sashis of this world, the Patrick Hillers, the whatever. I mean, a lot of analysis have been done. Even with our in-house Pat Utomis and the rest, great Nigerians and great Nigerians in diaspora. You see, a lot of analysis have been done that have showed that, as far as decay is concerned, we have that decay. Present structures for like gas development are not there, considering when some of these structures were put in place 20, 30, 40 years ago. But forward moving, You know, it is the government that needs to take steps to make sure certain things are put in place. Just one quick example. If you go to some countries, say you go to like the farms, you will be surprised to find out that a farm that is probably 20 or 30 hectares, you will be having water sprinklers